ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां व्यासशंकरमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। So we are starting to see the definition of a guru, or who is a guru, why a guru is required, and what does a guru accomplish, the lakshanam or the attributes of a guru. All of the prayers whichever we invoke is always about the guru only, because Sada Shiva Smarambam Vyasa Shankara Madhyama. So Shiva also is the Adi Guru. So it starts with the foremost guru, which is the Shiva. So from Shiva as the primary teacher, also called as Dakshinamurti. So Dakshin Amurtasya, or the one who is facing the south, or Amurtasyaha means the one who is formless. So Dakshinamurti, when you say, Dakshin means south, and Amurtasya means the Bhagavan, the Lord who is facing the south. And what is the south? South indicates death. Always the south indicates Lord Yama. So we never do, we sleep with our head towards the south. We always either facing north or east facing, or east-west facing. Because the south indicates, even while sitting in the class also, one must not be facing the south. Because only Dakshinamurti has a capability or has eligibility to sit and look at the south directly, death. And death indicates what? It indicates the fear of being a mortal. So whenever you see a samsara is the cause of this fear. And this fear can be removed only by jnanam. There's no other way of removing this. Samsara cannot be removed. Samsara cannot be avoided, because it is something which is already there and this cycle. It is not a linear, path, as some textbooks, some other people say, that it starts and then it ends there. In Vedanta, we call samsara as a chakraha, as a cycle. So you do not know where it starts and you do not know where it ends. For Ajnani, the beginning unknown, the end also is unknown. So the person continues to live in this eternal samsara for lifetime. So that is why we never ask when did it start? Or why did Bhagavan, being the consciousness, create all these things? Because that is not the right question to ask. The right question to ask is, how do I get resolved, or how do I manage this? It is like, when you have a dream, we don't question the dream because we do not know how a dream occurs. Correct? We have no idea. So can we say that why dream occurs? Because we do not know the answer. The only reason what you can attribute for the dream is because there is some vasanas, there is some impressions which are gathered during the day or during the entire lifestyle, which have been there for many, many years. So right from when you are a small child till an adult, we have gone through several transformations. Several impressions have been gathered. Some are very prominent, some are not very prominent, some are deeply affecting us. So those things are the one which somehow come in dreams. And we do not have a control over dreams at all. Can somebody say confidently that I will never dream? Is it possible? It is not possible, because it is certainly not in your hand. It is done for even everybody dreams. Even every jnani also dreams. Dreams are part of the cycle. It is something which you cannot avoid it. So when we say, why did Bhagavan create all these things? The answer is, first of all, the question is irrelevant from the point of asking, because the Bhagavan doesn't have any pleasure in going through all this, putting us in trouble, etc. The logical answer for this question is, why this consciousness comes to existence, why this Maya is there, why samsara is there, why dreams are there. The only answer to that is our karmas. So our karmas, which are they've been there for many years, for many, many generations, the karmas are there. Those things we have cycled through many generations before. And these are good and bad, good karmas and bad karmas. So punyam and papam, they accrue to the person who is not a jnani. Because a wise person doesn't have doership. He doesn't have kartutvam, bhoktutvam. So he doesn't accrue agami karma, he doesn't accrue. Sanchita karma also is not eligible, because he understands very clearly that I'm not the body anymore. I'm only this Chaitanyam, this Atma, the consciousness, which doesn't do the activity. So he or she is not affected by this question about, not worried about samsara, why did it start, why I am suffering, will I suffer? This question doesn't come to the person's mind, because he understands that it is there. Let it be there. So he's not worried about this, because he understands that he doesn't know when it started, but he knows that samsara is there because we are in samsara. But the wise person knows the answer for that. The answer for that is by seeking knowledge. So by understanding the reason for samsara, by understanding how one can get resolved out of samsara, understanding that one cannot avoid samsara, but one can get out of samsara. So you can easily, navigate yourself by understanding what it is, reason for why it is like this, to the extent of what Shastram says. Shastram always indicates that the samsara or this chakraha is because of all your karma phalas which have been there for many, many births. So bahunam janmanamante jnanavan ma prapadyate. So when after many, many years, one becomes a jnani. You do not become a jnani just in this janma or next janma. One has to work many, many years to do that. And jnana has to be sought. So when this thought rises in your mind, that I need to somehow free myself from samsara. That is the time the need for knowledge arises, or there is some searching, some going on in the mind of the person, that I'm doing everything what I can, but still there is some gap, something which is lacking in my life, something which I'm not able to get answers. And that is the time when you start to seriously start pursuing studies. Till such time, this won't occur to you. So the guru also, or the person's prayers, the person's frequent fervent prayers to seek knowledge and getting ready for that, that's a time when the teacher also will appear to the person. The teacher is always there, but the teacher may not be available to you because you yourself will not be ready. See, there has to be Shishya Lakshanam. So what is Shishya Lakshanam? Shishya Lakshanam means the person should have a burning knowledge, burning desire for knowledge. A person should be willing to commit oneself for the pursuit of moksha. Understanding, or try to understand what this really is, the universe is, who and what is my connection with the universe. So these are the questions which a person normally asks. Then he also questions, who are the people around me? My husband, my wife, my children. What is their connection with me? Am I related to them only by emotions or physical emotions? Is something else? What brings them? How are they connected to me? All these questions are, I'm sure it would have come to you at some point of time. So these are when these questions come, that is the time when the guru or the teacher also appears, or you come in contact with the person. Till such time, the person may be busy somewhere else. You will be somewhere else. So, as I told in the previous class, the Shastra says that for every person who wants to succeed in life, a guru is required. Because without a guru means a person who's the remover of darkness. So Guru-hu. The word guru can be spelled into gu plus ruhu. So Guru-hu. So gu means darkness, and ruhu means the remover of darkness. So remover of darkness or ignorance is called Guru-hu. So we have gurus in every walks of life. We have guru for maths, we have guru for dance, for music, even for management gurus. So all subjects we have gurus, and we are happy to accept them as gurus. And sometimes we say we need a guru like this. Without a guru, we cannot manage. We talk about it. But when coming to Atma Dhyanam, somehow this guru is not required. Or the person says, why should I follow somebody? Why should I need somebody? I can live myself just the way I want to live. I'm very happy here. But Shastram says that if you want to really take control of your life, if you really want to be led out of the samsara, only a guru can do it. And then Lakshanam is given as what? A person should be a Shrotriyaha. Shrotriyaha means the person should have been a student of another teacher. So Shrotriyam means listening, and Shrotriyaha means the person who has listened not by video recording. not by tape recorder or not by MP3 recording. Some people, they have a habit of listening to recording only. They do not want to. They are happy reading a book, or they will listen to the recording. That is not recommended Shastram at all. The Shastram says once you have to listen to the Guru, once full. You have to go through that complete process of listening to the teacher directly from the mouth of the teacher. Because the teacher only speaks the language in the Shastra, number one. Second thing is, as a teacher speaks, knowledge is transferred directly, instantly to the person. There is a communication happening directly, pratyaksha, right? So there is no delay. Whereas in case of recording or other things, there can be a delay. So that is why in the olden days, always the teacher and the guru will sit face to face, and from the expression of the face itself, the student, the teacher knows the student understands or not understands. Because when you look at the person, you'll know a blank face or following or not following, attending. So those kind of things. See, communication is, body language is important, number one. Understanding is important. So these things are all very important in the olden traditional style. So in the olden days, people used to sit, like when I studied with teachers, we used to sit for 8 hours, 7 hours a day. The whole day, morning 9 o'clock, 9:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock start till 5:36. You will be sitting there. There will be a break in between. You go out for some time, but you will be pretty much sitting along students there, and the teacher will be just teaching, explaining words, sentence after sentence, unfolding the meaning of this. So, Shrotriyaha, number one. Then, Brahmanishtaha, second quality. So, Brahmanishta means a person who is committed to the pursuit of Brahman or the pursuit of consciousness or Atma Jnana only. So the Guru also should have been pursuing only this particular aspect, nothing else. You cannot say that the Guru has got some part-time class or he has got some interest. Whenever he wants, he can teach, not like this. There should be a particular process, particular time when the classes happen and is systematic, continuous for a lengthy period of time. So Brahmanishta means it also involves Nididhyasana. So the Acharya also is involved in Nididhyasana. Second quality. The third thing is the Guru should have come from a Sampradaya tradition of teaching. Sampradaya tradition of teaching. So what is Sampradaya? It means a particular method or methodology of teaching. And the methodology which we follow should not contradict with your thinking. It should not cause you discomfort. And the methodology which you follow should systematically unfold the vision of Vedanta as you go step by step. Also, the method should be consistent in the particular parampara. So if you follow the Arshavidya parampara, Arshavidya Gurukulam, which is we follow here, any of the teachers you go, you can go to my teacher, you can go to Swami Paramarthananda, you can go to Guru Parananda, you can go to Omkarananda, are all big teachers, very big teachers. So there are so many teachers available here. At least 20-25 teachers are there in the tradition. They are spread out everywhere in the world. So they are all doing their own teaching. But all of them has got the same method, same unfolding of text. just because a student is interested to know a particular text, it will not be taught to the person just because he's interested. One has to go through the basic thing, and then after the basic thing, one has to be systematically unfolded step by step, step by step. It is just like, a blind person or a person has got an eye problem. When you got an eye problem, or we got Madras eye. I hope you have Madras eye. It is called a conjunctivitis. The redness in the eye is caused. So when you have redness, you feel very irritated, very burning sensation, thing there, right? So you go to the doctor, and the doctor, what does he say? He says, okay, I'll give you some ointment. Then the ointment you apply in the eyes, it gives soothing effect. If you apply once, it will not go. He will say you apply for 7 days. And if it doesn't go, then I'll give you some other treatment. So you go to the doctor with a problem, and that you trust the doctor that he will give you proper medicine. So number one is you must have trust in the teacher first. The second thing is you must also have trust in the medicine which is given by the teacher, by the doctor. The two things are important. Number one is you must be having trust in the doctors. See, when you start itself, you go there. I don't know whether the doctor can cure my problem or not. If you say this, then you can understand that 50% of the problem is still there. But what do? You surrender yourself, saying that I'm going to the doctor now because it is something which I cannot solve. I do not have the capacity to solve this problem myself. So I have to entrust myself completely to doctor. So when you go there, what do? He says you do this test, you stand here, you show your teeth, it does everything. And you listen without any altercation. Do you question them? You do not question, right? So in our practical life, when you have a physical body problem, we do not question because we have total surrender to the doctor. At the same time, then you also ask, is there some other problem which I have which you don't know? No, I'm having this problem also. The doctor says what? See, let's go step by step. I'm sure you all gone doctor. We have also got the doctor. Sometimes we'll say, sometimes I get this problem. Sometimes I'm getting back problem. So the person goes there, for one problem, then he discusses so many things. What does the doctor tell you? Okay, what is your primary problem? Tell me. Which is what the most important aspect of it. Here's my headache. My head is hurting a lot. So, or some, my back is hurting. Something. So you will have a primary, problem which is there. And the primary problem is the one is interested to solve. You may have other problems also, other questions around that problem. So when you ask a question, what does the doctor say? Don't worry about it. We will do checks and we will monitor your progress. You come back after 2 weeks or so. If it doesn't work, then we'll do more tests. I'll give you more medication, change your medication. And then, so what do? You go there, you believe the doctor, you come home, you take the medicine like gospel without even changing the alteration because you do not want to be having suffering, right? So you follow exactly the same thing without question. You do not question the medicine, you do not question the doctor's ability, you do not question the method also. Is it correct? In the same way, Shastram also works in your life also. So when you have a problem which is not a physical problem, but you have an emotional problem, which the doctor cannot solve. It is something inside your mind, you have something there. Some answers you're seeking. The doctor says you can see. Your eyes are good. No, but say I cannot see. It's just there's something wrong with your eyes. I can see that everything is functioning perfectly well. Your vision is clear. But if you keep saying that I cannot see, the doctor can't help you. So same way here also, when you have emotional problem which is inside you, then you need some other form of doctor. Right? Some other doctor who is not a physical doctor. Shastra will not give you will not cure you for any physical abilities. Mind you, if you come to study Shastram saying that I'll be cured of all the physical ailments, it will not happen. What it will tell you is that physical ailments are only relevant to the body only, and they are continuing to exist there as it is. So just by studying Shastram, you cannot say I'll not be having a headache at all. I'll not have blood pressure at all. You will have. But you will know how to manage them, and you will know how to look at them objectively. You no longer get worried about, oh my God, I have a blood pressure. How long will I live? All these things, you will not be no longer worried about it. Because you will see these things as symptoms of the body. So same way also, when you have a problem with understanding the samsara, or how long will I be in this samsara, is there a way out of this for me? That's a time when you approach a guru, and the guru is a person who helps you to free you from samsara. So Bishaje Bhava Roginam. So what is Bhava Roginaha? Bhavaha means the endless cycle of samsara. And Roginaha means what? This is a disease. So this endless transmigration is like a disease only. You can never get cured of it. So there the guru comes as what? As Bishak or doctor. So Bishajay means, Bishajam means the medicine. It is not the doctor who is going to help you. It is the medicine. The medicine the doctor is going to give is going to cure the problem. Just by talking to the doctor is not going to help you anything. See, I'm trying to give you a message. If you go and follow a doctor, oh, this doctor is a very nice looking doctor. He talks very well, a well-mannered person. He talks about very interesting things. So I would like to go and see the doctor. But is he going to solve the problem is important. What medicine is going to give you is important. Then what is he talking about? What is he, how his lifestyle is. So majority of the people who go for gurus or these gurus or these leaders, they look at the lifestyle of the person. Oh, this person is a very famous person, very good orator, excellent speech maker, lot of followers are there. So he must be a very famous person. So let me also go and follow that group. So you're desperate to follow that group without knowing what you want. See, like there's so many people are there. So many people are there who follow groups, become members, and because they are also like you only. They also don't know what they're seeking for. So when you come to the group, they'll say, oh, you also come for the same problem. I also got the same problem. So they forget the guru, they start talking about themselves. Oh, so you got this problem, I got that problem. Whereas Shastram says that there are key things you look for in a guru. Number one, as I told you, is Shrotriyaha. He or she should have been already listening to the teacher in person, not through a photo, not through a recording. See, Manasika Guru is not acceptable. You cannot say that, there's a Manasika Guru. That means, see, there are teachers and they are called inspirers. It's a difference. Teachers are the person who teaches you direct. They give you vision directly. Inspirers are the people who have already been a teacher before and they have left you behind a treasure of things. And you get inspired. The inspirers cannot be giving you the jnana vision directly. You can get some ideas. But the person is no longer there for you to ask the questions. Let us say you are reading a biography of a yogi. Autobiography of yogi is a very famous book there. So I got, then Eckhart Tolle, somebody's written Tattvamasi, some book is written there. Number one, I don't read such books. I know it's lying here. Some Papaji, something is there. So my wife, she reads all these books initially. Then J. Krishnamurti is there. So there are nice books to read. And it will start with, you are the Brahman, consciousness, something like this we'll talk about. Without knowing who you are, if you talk about you are the consciousness, how will you know? It's very confusing. So you read 5 times, same thing will come to you. Because you cannot go beyond what is written there. The words itself that's what it is there. So the words has to be unfolded to you properly, systematically to you. One by one, you have to remove the layer of, ajnanam. Right? Chakshuhu militamena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnana timira andasya. So, andaha means what? You become blind by ajnana. So when you become blind by ajnanam, you are bound by chains of jnana. So there the Guru comes as an ointment. And chakshuhu, he opens your eyes. Not the physical eyes, but the inner eyes. And then he lets you see through the problems. So it's very important that the Brahmanishta, as I told you, is a person who is already pursuing Brahmanishta. He is living the lifestyle of a guru by teaching, by having compassionate nature. The guru should have a compassion, number one. He must not be jealous of somebody saying that, oh, this person is having a lot of things. And this person is an enemy, number one. I don't like this person. For a teacher, for a guru, he doesn't have any, there's no competition because really he's not to compete here at all. He doesn't need to get anything more from anything because the person who's already full need not get more full. When you're already saying you're full, you do not make more full. Full itself is fullness. Just like, when you have a deep hole in your backyard, something like this. So when there is no rain, the hole is very clearly visible to you. You can see that when you go across it. So you can see there's no water there. Then when the rain starts to come, that is when knowledge starts to pour, then the hole starts to get full, correct? So it becomes full at the brim. But when rain starts to get more, knowledge comes. Does it actually make it more fuller? It doesn't, because the water just keeps flowing on top of it. So that's why when more knowledge comes, doesn't make you more fuller, because you do not need to be more fuller because you are full already. So when jnanam rises in you, you do not have this person called competition, animosity. Those things don't exist in the person anymore. Because you are giving 100% knowledge to the person and you want that person to be successful in life. You want to see the same vision. Whatever you enjoy, whatever works for you, should also work for other person. This is one of the quality of the teacher. So whenever you look for a guru or anyone, anything, or your friend look for it, make sure that the person understands these things. If somebody tells you that who is your teacher, he says, no, I don't have a teacher at such moment. Now, how did you learn? I said, everything I learned out of my own study. I read this book. I went to this yoga camp. I did this research. I asked Google Ananda all the questions. They replied. Wikipedia I searched. I made elaborate notes. All the things we say, they are all nice things to do, but it is not going to benefit you. Because traditionally, what has been taught for many, many years by the rishis, it is still working now. Nothing has changed. It is still the direct mode of teaching. In current environment, we got Zoom. Like, because of so many things are there, and because of distance, because of the the commitment of the people, they are working, different things are there. So we need to adapt to this. But still, it is better than reading some book directly and getting them. So we saw also the different types of guru we saw. I give example. You call Diksha Guru. So Diksha Guru means a person who gives Diksha or any mantra. So some gurus have got, if you go to them for knowledge, they say, see, look, you don't need all these things now. Just do Ramanama chanting for now. It is an easy way to. So they say you do now this chanting. So you do 1,000 times chanting every day and you keep doing this. But I know a person who does this, he will keep counting. Today I've done 1,25,425,000 something, some japa. So he keeps count of the number of japas. Frankly speaking, it is irrelevant because you are not doing the japa for any counting purpose. You are doing the japa for your mental purity. During that point of time, you must not be doing anything else. See, it is not okay for you to wear a Rudraksha mala, or then you take it out and then you go in the bus and you keep on saying, I'm doing this, but your eyes are everywhere else. What's happening there? Who is coming and sitting in front of you? Who is getting out there? Then you see somebody at the door. This is not called japa. When you do japam, this diksha, when you say, diksha means the guru gives a mantra. And the mantra has to be taken by the student in a particular day, in a particular manner. You cannot just, come on the phone and say, give me a mantra to chant. You cannot talk like this. You will have to be ready for it. A particular day will be chosen for you. You have to, take bath in the morning, come direct to the guru, not on the phone also, not on Zoom also. You cannot be given diksha on the guru on the phone, on Zoom saying, oh, give me teaching this mantra on Zoom. No, it has to be in person. So either the guru can come in person to your house, you can invite the person there, or you can come to the person's guru's place at a particular time nominated, after taking bath, fresh, with whatever you want to offer to the guru as offering, you give that. It doesn't expect you to give that, but normally when you go, you're always not supposed to go empty-handed. Something should be there, something. So there, the diksha mantra, diksha guru means they give only diksha. They do not give knowledge. And they may explain the mantra, they may not explain the mantra also. So there are gurus who give diksha, who give siksha also. So diksha and siksha, they are preferred because when you give a mantra to diksha mantra, then you tell him why the mantra, what is the meaning of the mantra, why you should chant the mantra, what is the significance of the mantra, and how is it going to benefit you. If you do not tell the person, he or she may lose shraddha. It is also possible that the person may not be following the guru's instructions. Then the particular thing will not work for him. See, it is like, I told you doctor, right? You go to the doctor with a prescription. He gives you a prescription, you come home and then you follow exactly the same thing. 3 times a day you should do this. After dinner you take 1 tablet. Before you do this. He has given instructions. So diksha is given you, correct? But you do not follow. Or you follow for 2-3 days, then you skip 1 day in between. Then sometimes, oh my God, I remembered this. Let me start doing this. It is not going to work for you. So such people who don't follow particular routine or don't have this belief, it will not work for them. Even though the mantra has been given to them, the power of the mantra will not work for them. So there should be an effort on the person's part also to put in equivalent effort and do it systematically for a lengthy period of time. It can be any mantra. So then Siksha Guru is a person who gives teaching. So apart from giving Diksha also, it gives teaching also, explains the meaning of each mantra, what is the relevance of the mantra in the context of the whole Vedantic vision is there. Siksha Guru. Also called as Sadguru. Sad means truth, existence, or the one who speaks the truth. Always talks about what is Satyam is called Sadguru. Sometimes Sadguru, if you follow, don't know what Sadguru means, it can become Sadguru also. Because if you do not know what Sadguru is, and somebody says, I'm a Sadguru, and if you follow without having yourself as to what you want, then you end up going there. Then you'll also find that you are sad. Then there's no point in telling him you are a sad guru, because you yourself went there. It was your choice. See, nobody is compelling you to do anything. It is always your choice. It is always your will, always your interest. There are things out there. So many people are out there. But when you seek a particular person, or when you seek a particular knowledge, there's always this will is there, your interest is there, and it should be very clear to you, evident to you. So Sadguru here means Diksha Guru also, Siksha Guru also, all the combined put together Sadguru, the one who speaks the truth. So only in the Guru Parampara we have 4 different levels. In everything else we have 3. Correct? We have Deva, then Mahadeva, Adideva. We have 3 different levels there. But in the Guru Parampara only we have 4. So Shiva, Vyasa, Shankaraha, then Acharya. So 4 levels. So that's why Guru is held in the most highest form. And how do you go to a Guru is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita also. It says here, Tatviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevayaha. So Tatviddi means what? Viddi means to know. Vid means knowledge. Viddi means to know. And what is the Tat Viddi? Means that knowledge. So when you say Tat Tvamasi means you are that, means that knowledge which you are seeking, how you should go? Pranipatena. So you have to go with Namaskara. You cannot just, come to the sofa, put your feet on top of each other. The Guru is sitting there. Then you are sitting on the same level. And your legs are stretched out. You're reclining. Posture is not there. All these things are not required. You have to be always sitting one level below the Guru. You have to be, first sitting there, you have to be sitting one level. That it means what? That you are looking up to the Bhagavan. You are looking up to the teacher. And the teacher's vision is this way. Not that way, where you keep looking up. Hope you remember the Mahabharata, right? The Mahabharata, when Krishna is lying there and Duryodhana comes and Arjuna also comes. Arjuna, when he comes, he is He's sitting near the feet of Krishna. Krishna is lying on the bed, he's sleeping, he's just, thinking about something. He doesn't know Arjuna has come. But Duryodhana also comes. But then he stands in front near the head of Krishna. So there are two people, one standing at the head of Krishna, one person standing near the feet of Krishna. And this person is lying like this. So when he opens the eyes, who does he look first? He will always look first at the feet, correct? Because Bhagavan also cannot look this way. He doesn't know who is standing behind. He will always be looking at the feet. So when he saw that Arjuna is sitting there, oh Arjuna, you came. He said, yeah, I came and you were sleeping at Krishna, I don't want to disturb you. So I was sitting there. So because you came first, what do you want? Then immediately Duryodhana said, actually I came first. And I was standing behind you, you didn't see me. So it is my turn to ask. But anyway, Arjuna said, I don't need anything from you. I just want you to be my friend. I want you to be in the war. So what it means is here, that a person who is, so tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnaha. So pariprashnaha means what? By humble inquiries, not arrogant questions. Oh, so you are a great teacher. So you know a lot of things. I heard that you know so many things. You teach this, you teach that. What do you think about Upanishad? What do you think about this? What is your idea on so many things? This is not called pariprashna. Pariprashna means humble inquiry, and the inquiry should be toward the subject you are learning. So you must always be asking, can I learn this? Or what does it mean? If you don't mind, can you explain me a little bit more about this? So always a request. So it's called pariprashnaha. Then sevayaha. So seva means what? You should always be at the service of the teacher of the Lord. Not that he's expecting you to wash his clothes or her clothes. Or not that he's asking you to take, do this work, that work. No. Seva means that you must be serving the teacher by following the Shastra. The teacher does not expect anything from you, or the Guru does not expect anything from you other than following the Shastra, doing your homework, studying, Shravanam, Maranam, and then up to date with the class. And progressing the study. Correct? And what does the Guru do? Upadeshyanti. So when you go to the Guru with tatvidhi pranipatena pariprashnaha sevayaha. So when you serve the Guru with this attitude, and when you do namaskaraha, when you surrender to the Guru totally, teacher, he gives you upadeshaha. He gives you teaching. He teaches you what does he teach you? Jnanam. Gives you jnanam. He teaches you the knowledge. And by jnanam, what does it do? Jnanam tattva darshinaha. So these people who you go, they give you the jnanam, and through jnanam, they'll give you the darshanam, or the vision of the Shastras, the vision of the truth. So you must always go to the teacher with this attitude. So the key thing is, understanding how to go to a teacher, how to understand what is required, how to learn, how to be humble is very important. Acharyavan Purusho Vedaha. See, Acharyavan Purusho Vedaha means what? The Acharya talks only about Vedas. He doesn't talk about anything else. You cannot go and talk to him about, oh, this film looks good, or this particular topic looks good. What do you think about this? He may not respond to you. It doesn't mean that he's neglecting you. the subject which is pursuing is not relevant to the topic of discussion you are inviting. So he may not be interested. So it doesn't mean that he's ignoring you or procrastinating you or something like this. Acharyavan Purusho Vedaha is in Chandogya Upanishad. So it says that this person who is Acharya only talks about Veda. So he's kind of boring character. Always he talks about Shastra only, nothing else to talk about. Because when a student and teacher has, see, this student-teacher, it's a special relationship. There cannot be anything greater than this relationship. And it is a special, unique, what do you call, bond, which is forever. As long as student is there, the teacher will be there. So even though the student may be old, the teacher also is as good as old also. See, even today also, when you are in school, you would have been, taught by a teacher. Even today, you are respect for a teacher, correct? Even today also. So when you go and see a teacher, what do? You may know more than the teacher at this point of time. You may be knowing, but you still do not forget that initially he or she was the person who brought you to speed. So there's always a respect by the student to a teacher. The teacher also acknowledges the student that, oh yes, he's my student, he's my chhatra. So see how he is successful. So the teacher also feels very glad about it. Oh, you are doing so many things. So both of them don't have animosity. Both of them do not have any enmity. And this is the bond which serves for lifetime. It continues till the student is alive or till the teacher is alive. After the teacher passes away, also the student continues to follow the teacher's teachings and remembers the person as a teacher only to teaching only. He or she no longer has got a visual impression of how the teacher was. The impression is how the teacher was living the life, how the teacher taught, and what sort of vision he was given, and that is how the person is remembered. Not through photos, not by murti, not by pujas, not by installing temples, installing so many things. In fact, no guru or teacher likes to do all these things because he wants to be free. You do not want to be again brought into life again. That's why a teacher is known through the teachings, not by just the appearance or anything else. It's important that everything is part of the package. But the key thing is the message is important. The teachings are important. I sent you one small write-up about, from Guru Gita last week. If you remember, you have it in WhatsApp with you. So I said, Shive Krudde Gurustrata, Shive Krudde Gurustrata, Gurau Krudde Shivo Nahi. That means, Gurustrata means the Guru is the savior. So this is from Guru Gita, one of the famous verses in Guru Gita, which explains the importance of the Guru. So Guru Strata means the savior is called the Guru here. Correct? And who is the savior from whom? Shive Kruddhe. So Shivaha means even if the Lord gets angry, supposing the Lord gets angry, you can go to the Guru and the Guru can be the savior. So supposing the Bhagavan, you go to the Bhagavan and says, I don't get this, or you're angry, Bhagavan says, okay, just saying. So what do? You go to the teacher and say, no, I didn't get what I want. So the teacher can pacify you. But Guru Kruddhe means if Guru gets angry, then there is no savior for you. That means what? Bhagavan gets angry, you can go to the Guru and seek respect. Sharanam you can do. But if you get angry with the Guru itself, the teacher itself, there is no way you can go anywhere. Just imagine that if you have got, if you don't like a teacher, I don't like the teacher, so you just start not going to classes, just ignore the person, don't do anything there. Who is going to benefit? You are going to only to lose it. The teacher is not going to get anything out of it because he or she doesn't really bother whether you come or not, or you learn or not. But if you don't, and if you choose to ignore the person, if you make the person angry, so this is Guru Kridde means what? It doesn't get angry. What it means is, if you do not follow, or if you leave the Guru, or if you choose to just walk away from everything, then even the Bhagavan also cannot save you. Shivo nahi. So Shive Kridde Gurustrata, Guru Kridde Shivo nahi. So even Shiva also cannot save you, Bhagavan also cannot save you from the anger of the Guru. Because what? Guru is a person through which Bhagavan is introduced. You do not know Bhagavan directly. The Guru is the one who gives you vision saying that Ishvara is this, Jiva is this, Ishvara Jiva Bhidaha is not there. So you are the Bhagavan, correct? So through the Guru only you know the Bhagavan is. Otherwise you wouldn't know what it is. So thereby, that's why Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara. Because Guru says as the Guru Brahma, Guru also is Vishnu, Guru Devaha Maheshwara. So he is present in all the things. Guru Sakshat Param Brahma. So Guru is nothing but the Param Brahma. Unto that Bhagavan Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. So unto that Guru, my Namaskarams, I surrendered in total. So here also Tasmat Sarva Prayatnena. So therefore, all the effort should be made. Sarva Prayatnena, you should make all the effort. Means you must give full effort without any, leave nothing. Full effort. Right? Sri Gurum Sharanam Vraje. So you go to the surrender of the teacher with all your efforts. Do not go with half-hearted effort. So you have to go, like I told you, when you go to the doctor, you have to go with full surrender. You cannot go to the doctor with half-hearted surrender because it is not going to benefit you. It will only leave you doubt. The doctor also will start to suspect you because he also knows that you have got preconceived ideas. Because whenever you talk something, you ask a question, you come with your own ideas. Some people have this, they talk about it. So as you keep talking, like yesterday I met somebody, it's a very old person, 64, 65 years of age. So for every 100 words he speaks, I may speak one word by nodding my head or not like this. Then he came very next to me. Sir, I would like to come next to you and talk to you. So it became more, you cannot ignore, but what I'm trying to tell you is, when the person starts to talk more and listen less, then the person also thinks that, okay, let him talk what he wants to talk. Let him, take everything out. But this, you are not solving the problem. You are only putting everything out there, but you're not letting the expert decide what is the problem. You're only letting you go for everything. Instead of you say, I have got this problem, how do I solve this? Right? You please guide me. If you tell like this, then it is a problem of the person who is actually putting the problem to solve it for you. Whereas if you keep on blabbering, which is keep on saying like this and not letting other person speak at all. So when he says, oh no, that's not like, no, this is like this. I had this before. So why I'm saying, because I had this. So you again go to some other topic. So the doctor tries to again come back and say, no, let me complete, let me finish. I'm not finished yet. So these are all signs of, immaturity and restlessness, agitation, which one has to master it. Then only you can go to the guru. You cannot go to the teacher with all this baggage. In fact, I was told that when you come to the class, you leave all the baggage behind. All whatever you learned before of other topics, other people have told you, heard about this, leave everything behind. Because these things can become pratibandhas. These things can become obstruction. Because your mind is racing. You have learned somewhere else, you have read somewhere else, and you have got your own ideas already formed about this. Then this comes along, then you compare one and one. Sometimes it is better to teach somebody who has got a clean slate. When you have a clean slate, you can write whatever you want. It will be very clear. But when the same slate is being written many times, in the school days, I remember when we used to write a slate, we used to take a black slate and we used to write. You keep rubbing. After rubbing many times, even if you write also, the previous letters will be seen there. Hope you know that. What it means that the impressions which are gathered for many years, right, it's continues to stay. So one has to sometimes offload it and then take a fresh approach and then learn everything from scratch. Then it becomes very clear because he or she doesn't come with preconceived ideas or notions. Even if it is there, also nothing wrong with that. But in the wake of the study of the Shastram systematically, this will get clear to you. So questions will come to you, and questions will get slowly answered in every lecture or subsequent lectures. You will find the answer what you're seeking for. Then, Harau Rushte Gurustrata. So even if Hari also, so Shivaha, Hari also, you can go to the Guru. But if Guru gets angry, Guru Rushte na Kaschana. So what will you do when the Guru gets angry? Angry means Guru doesn't get angry. He just says, Bhagavan only can save you. Sometimes he'll say, I've done everything what I can. Then what does the doctor say? It's all up to the God. Because he has done what he can. But if you do not follow, if you do not trust the person there, doctor there, then what do you say? You just keep praying. One day it will come to you. He will be okay. So do this mantra, do this chanting, do this. So all diksha comes. Because all this thing doesn't work. Then it says you go back to the old method of what you want to do. So it's not the Guru doesn't get angry. The Guru says, maybe you are not ready. Maybe, there are still some inhibitions about you which is stopping you. So tasmat sarva prayatnena Shri Gurum Sharanam Braje. So therefore, always is better to surrender to the Guru in total. So very, very important that in a person's life, it's like a Guru is like a walking stick. So when you are lame or when you cannot walk properly, you need a stick. So you have to hold on to the stick till such time you can walk properly. See, even a child also, when it tries to walk, it tries to hold things around. It doesn't walk like that. It tries to hold first something, even the mother's finger, father's finger, it falls. Then again, I give hand again. See, we do all these things in practical life. But when coming to leading our life, real life, we do not have this thought also. So the Guru is like the stick which is required for a person to walk. And the Shastram is the one which is giving strength to stick. The stick is the Guru, right? The Shastram is the one which is empowering the stick to make it strong. Otherwise, stick will be weak. So it's a very, very firm stick which has got, all jnanam is there, how to do all these things, everything is there. So it holds very tight and you can hold on to it. It will not just drop you like this. So you hold on to the Guru till this time you are ready. So you have to keep to the person, holding on to the person till you feel you can walk. The day when you feel that you can walk on your own, then the stick may not be required. You do not need to hold on to the stick anymore, but you remember the stick. You remember the stick because you know that there was a stick which I used and the stick is still there, is required, and you just pay respects. That's all it is. So afterwards, you may have to leave everything also. Even Shastram also is an addiction. Even the studying of the text, holding on to the text also is a bandha. Because you'll say, oh, without the book, I cannot do anything about it. I have to carry my Bhagavad Gita book with me all the time. I have to carry this book with me all the time. Once you have gained jnanam, once you gain full, you can walk and run. Do you want to carry the stick with you all the time? You do not. So the Guru also leaves you at that time. It is not that he or she disappears from your life. He goes to another person, another student where there is more required. Then another student may be having walking problem in life. So he or she goes to the other person and then helps the person. So in this way, the tradition continues. So the Guru Shishya Parampara is a lifelong tradition. So the Guru becomes the teacher initially, then Shishya learns, Shishya becomes the Guru later on. So that's how the tradition continues. So at some point of time, you'll all become teachers at some point of time. Whenever you're ready, whenever you learn everything, you may be doing something on your own. Whatever you know, whatever you have got clarity, you may share with other people. It also is teaching. So hope I gave you just a very bird's eye view of what Guru means today. Have you got any questions today in any class, anything today? Have I made it clear to you? Okay.
I have no questions.
Kushalji, you are okay so far? Okay. Shrikant, New Zealand, any questions so far from you?
No, sir, I'm good.
Okay. Bhavani and Sriram, have you got any question from your side?
No, everything was nice. I was just telling Sriram I should give my to listen to this whole thing. It's such a nice one.
Right. As you all know,
all good for me. Thanks.
all good. So as you all know, we are starting a new class on this Saturday, Sunday, 4:30 to 5:30 p.m. We're starting Vishnu Sahasranama. So most people know chanting, but it is also a chanting class. It will be more the meaning of the whole thing is explained. So the previous class it took me 2.5 years to do that class. So I'm not threatening you I'm not, because it's a very long text, but it gives you the full vision as to why you're chanting the mantra. So it is important to know the mantra, number one. Second thing is you should know the meaning of the mantra. So the Vishnu Sahasranama is actually not a Parayanam. It is a Vedantic text. Most of the mantras have got direct connection to Bhagavad Gita. Because both of them were taught in the same era. So one is taught by Bhishma because Bhishma asked Krishna to teach Sahasranama to Yudhishthira and everybody else. Then he says, if I tell Sahasranama to these people, they won't like it. They say it's better that you tell them. So because Bhagavan's blessing is given to Bhishma, and Bhishma actually narrates when he's in the deathbed on the bed of arrows. He narrates the questions, the question asked, Vishnu asks. So Kimekam they will come loke. So he says, who is that Bhagavan which is known in every world? So he asks a question like, no, Kim Ekam Devam Loke. So where is that Bhagavan? One Bhagavan is there. And how do I worship him? What form is there? What should I do to him? That becomes the whole, that question becomes a format for all the subsequent things. So the previous mantras are, so it's a very good composition and we hope to see, I think that a lot of people express interest. Most of them, they know Vaishnavas, they know chanting very well. They chant Sahasranama very well. But you don't have to worry about it because I'll be teaching from the beginning. In fact, if you want to chant, you can chant at your own, when I'm teaching, you can chant also. Or if you're interested, one of you can volunteer to chant every week So one of you can volunteer, next week somebody else can volunteer, something like this. So that you get practice of standing it. So we'll take this plenty of time. There's no hurry, or I'm not going to hurry in any course or anything. So we will take as much time as is required to give you the vision correctly. So with this, what we have done is we have concluded the first leg of Vedanta, which is introduction to Vedanta. So the next class we are going to start with fundamentals of Vedanta. So introduction to Vedanta was just a broad picture. So the next class we'll be starting to see some text, some Vedantic text. And through the text, we'll talk about aspects of consciousness. You need to know Sanskrit or not, but there's English version available also. People who can read Sanskrit, they can read Sanskrit. You can read that. People who do not know Devanagari, there's English version also available, which is send it to you. So you can follow the English version. Because I'm going to give only the English meaning to you. So even though I speak in Sanskrit also, you will be able to follow the English. So I'll outline the class to you next week, what we intend to cover. Then we'll start from there. So that's about maybe another 7, 8 classes or maybe 9 classes we'll do. After that, we're going to some serious topics. That will be, we really get and start listening to Tattva Bodha, Atma Bodha, all those kind of things. So it will be, by the time we'll be ready, it should be aware about a lot of other topics already there, talked about. So you should be able to follow from that point of view. So Atma Bodha, Tattva Bodha, Drigdish Viveka, then Hastamalaka Gitam. After that, we'll probably go to Gita after that. Then after the Gita is completed, then we go into the Upanishads. So the 10 Upanishads. So the whole thing can take you about 9 to 12 years. It has taken me 13 years to complete everything. So I was just looking at the book the other day. I started way long ago, maybe in 2004, something like this. 2004 I started studying. And I can see my notes are there 2004 onwards. Today is 2020 now, 16 years. It has taken me to complete one mandal, one cycle. It takes 12 years for the Guru to change, Guru Dashaha. So if you are already in the Guru cycle, the Guru has got 12 year cycle. So once you start that cycle of 12 years, then you will not forget. You will always you will continue the whole cycle there. So Guru Dasha. So that every 12 years, that particular Guru will change. But in 12 years' time, you would have mastered everything. Then whatever anybody else comes, it doesn't matter to you. So if you started on the right path, you just continue. Don't worry about the number of years. I'm just giving you an idea. You don't have to study that long also. So as long as you're confident, you get a topic. But when you study everything together, then you do not have any doubts in any subject at all. Otherwise, doubts may come. Because some other topic will introduce some other vision, some other things they'll say, and you will get confused. So that's why it's recommended that you study everything together at for a period of time. And we can do it our own time. We don't need to rush into anything. So 1 class a week, which is what you're doing, right? So we'll continue for this. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Namaste. Shubhratri to all of you. So tomorrow we have Purusha Suktam Bhashyam class. Okay. 7:30 Sydney time. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Harihi Om.